thank you for having me today. I love Manchester, and I've really loved this morning. I am choosing optimism. I don't know about you, I feel so inspired by that, and I feel like a lot of what people have been talking about is absolutely bang on. I've been sitting there with my phone, sort of like little nuggets that the other speakers have said have sort of like made me jot things down on my phone to furiously go back to work and come up with feature ideas. So I think that I really loved that last talk because, you know, I mean, the human brain's amazing, and I think that we all sort of like need each other and feed off each other's stories, and that's a lot of what I'm talking about with what I'm doing at You magazine. I have been in the job at Mail on Sunday for about 7, maybe 8 months now, and I was sort of like forced to think about optimism. I want to talk to you about what my plans are there, and sort of like in the ways I think that a print supplement like You magazine and all its competitors are the sort of like not forgotten, but sort of like underestimated superheroes sometimes. And we're sort of like talking about what we're doing, what our editors are doing, and how we feel about digital and the future for the brand. But back to optimism, I was thinking about this just the other day because my harshest critic is undoubtedly my one-woman focus group at home, my 13-year-old daughter. When I joined You magazine in March of this year, I'll be really honest with you, she at least was rather nonplussed. I remember when we featured, I'm just going to put you up with some of my covers here. One of the covers you'll see there on the far left is Kristen Bell. She was one of my daughter's favourites thanks to Frozen, where she was a voice in the TV show The Good Place. And when I took that issue home and said, oh look, it's Kristen Bell, you like her, you know who she is. She looked at me and she sort of just went, does she know she's on your cover? Like really, like, sort of like really disparagingly. I was like, yes, thank you very much. And she's really, really pleased about it. So my job to my Generation Z little cow of a daughter was not cool at all. But then just last weekend, I took home, I think it's up there, yes, my double Trinny Woodall Friday twinning cover. That's her and her Instagram partner in crime, Chloe Delalio. We did this fun thing about where they do a Friday twin thing on Instagram. She's a size 12, Chloe's a size 16, and they sort of like go into places like Zara and show you how both of their shapes can wear the same sort of stuff. We just thought it was a fun thing. Trinny's a contributing editor of ours. And they were promoting that, and it was, you know, something a bit different, a bit novel for You magazine, and this cover followed hot on the heels of a variety that I am very proud of. As you can see up there, things like Elizabeth Hurley and her son, Susanna Reid sporting boxing gloves for some reason, we made it work. Anna Friel, some people, it's good enough just to look their gorgeous selves. Mary Berry turning supermodel for our special fashion issue, and a world-exclusive interview with Tina Turner. So last Sunday when I took that Trini cover home, and my daughter, for the first time, said to me, Mum, what's going to be in your cover next weekend? And I really felt the tingles of quite a big victory there. You know, her interest signified to me that I've achieved at least one thing that I set out to do, to make You magazine's covers and content more surprising than it was. And if I can get that cynical Generation Zer to look forward to seeing and wondering what we do next, then I feel like we've really achieved something there in quite a small space of time. You is a powerful brand, and it's a beloved brand, magazine brand that brings millions of readers to the newsstand on Sunday. But I do think, if we're being really honest, it has had a sustained period of not really changing and evolving very much at all. It's sort of like made you feel, I think, as wonderful as it was, like you could kind of miss 2 or 3 issues and still kind of pick up and understand what was going on in a couple of weeks later. I've worked really hard with the team to change that perception, and you will see bigger surprises from us coming in our content and our covers in the weeks to come. I have just appointed a new creative director. Her name is Natasha Tomlin Hall. She won all the design awards when she was the pioneering editor, creative director at Stylist magazine. I always want to say it's in Stylist, of Stylist magazine, free weekly. And she and I are currently working on a redesign of the magazine. And that will encompass all our digital content as well. And you'll soon see a lot of unexpected twists from our covers and other content. So my goal is that it's, as I've said, it's really hard to predict what you will get from us. And I think that that is a real driver to newsstand and across our social channels. But in the digital age, people still talk about magazine covers. These covers all generated masses of publicity. When celebrities want to make an impact with the public, and with a product or a film or whatever that they're publicising, they want my cover and others like it. Yes, they're going to get 2 million eyeballs on that cover, but also because, frankly, nobody gets excited about being on a website's homepage. Nothing beats the quality, the luxury, the glossiness, and the permanence of the printed page. And I think as well, when the internet is that ever-expanding universe, it's brands, publicists, celebrities. I know from my experience, and it's unfortunately a lot of experience now, let's not dwell on that, they're not as thrilled when I can give them digital-only coverage. Because they know that there is something special about what we choose to commit our precious resources to when it comes to producing that prime real estate of print. And in fact, I think the role of editors is more important than ever. I'm kind of finding a delicious irony in when information has never been more freely available and limitless, that readers are actually crying out for editors and for edited information. And expert editors, here's some of my gorgeous people who I'm sort of like really cultivating as personality journalists in the magazine across all our mediums, because I think it's so important. I know that there are spocky people out there like my husband who love doing things like trawling endless comparison websites. And I think that most people, though, and certainly you magazine readers, want all of that information distilled by other people. So like, can't somebody else do it? And delivered to them by people who they trust to thoroughly understand their likes and dislikes. And we find that our most popular pages are not the things where we try and show absolutely everything and give the expanse of information, but rather when our expert teams explain that they've looked at everything out there and cut the junk out to give you the best. And that can be the best advice, the best experience, the best point of view, or yes, the best mascara or the best skirt. I think I've got a page here from just a few weeks ago. Yes, this tiny, tiny thing that Edwina personally endorsed about a Cartier fragrance prompted a sellout in counters across the country. And I think it's because it had that air of authenticity. It's all of Edwina's pages. We've already sort of like built her as a real cult of personality. It's deliberately quite sparse, her page. It's deliberately distilled information. Here's the 1, 2, maybe 3 things I want to tell you about this week, and here's the personal, authentic story about why I think this is the right thing for you. She's had 20, 25 years experience, and people really invested and believe in what she says. And anyone who follows me on Instagram can tell you that I'm not immune to social media. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love Instagram, and I think it's important for us as well, and we're cultivating that. I kind of feel like that Instagram and social media's star performers, the gold medalists of being influencers, are invariably quite navel-gazing. It's all kind of, here's what I'm doing today. Here's an outfit I look bitching in. Here's an outfit. Here's my flat stomach on my free holiday in the Maldives. You should totally come to this part of the Maldives, but of course, you're going to pay for it. I didn't pay for it. I'm not paying for it. I'm not paying for any of this, all this juice. But magazines have always been about, and I don't mean to have a crappy pun here, but magazines have always been about you. Certainly the magazines I've always edited have been about who is the reader, what did they want to see, what's going to make their life easier today, what's going to make them laugh for 5 minutes, what's the nugget that's going to be in this printed page today that's going to make them feel that they can go out and improve their life in some way today, big or small. You know, what's going to make them happy for 2 minutes in a way that wouldn't have if they hadn't picked us up. So my motivation has always been to put that reader first and facilitate their lifestyle rather than just present a sort of singular envy-inducing glimpse of stuff that just won't happen to them. And the industry and the readers, too, are very wise to the difference between a trained expert and someone who has crafted a great living out of taking nice Instagram pictures of their pretty faces. And I love those people, but I just don't think they have all the answers for brands and certainly for converting customers. I will never forget the large beauty brand that I won't name, who sent a representative to speak to me and several other glossy magazine editors a couple of years ago when I was the editor at Glamour. And it was explained by this company representative that they had something of a conundrum in their business, in that they couldn't justify the very high fees that were being demanded by the so-called top-tier influencers, people with hundreds of thousands or sometimes maybe followers in the millions. And so they were therefore looking at, I'm sure this is all old news to you, they were looking at micro-influencers, people in the 40 to 50,000 follower mark, because they were more affordable and they felt like they had sort of like more engagement with their smaller communities. But there was a bit of a problem. We were told by this representative from a huge company that these Instagrammers don't have the knowledge in their field that my team, my magazine team, trained journalists with years of experience had. So it was presented to us in this sort of like conference forum that perhaps we could help this large beauty company by inviting some of these untrained, inexpert Instagrammers and other social media people into our offices and teaching them what we know, so then they could go and work with them for their cheaper rates. And that was quite a dark day for me, and I sort of like had a difficult time. People who work with me probably already know that was a difficult day for my sense of humor and my temper. But on the bright side, it was nice to have the agreement from somebody so senior at such a hugely respected organization that the handful of people who work with people like me who have managed to secure these precious high-profile print jobs in beauty and fashion, what have you, probably do know their field inside out and know what they're talking about. And I just feel like when limitless content is free, it really means something that millions of people buy a newspaper every day, every Sunday. They get out of their pajamas, they get off their smartphones, and they actually go into a shop and buy us. And in an age where none of us really have to do that to have access to information, I think that speaks volumes about the trust in print. And again, there's that word again. I've been very optimistic about some of the things I've seen today about that return to that, and I think it's a very exciting time. Back to my one-woman focus group, she's also discovered the joy of beautiful-looking vinyl. Thank you, Taylor Swift, for reintroducing the concept to young people. I saw her staring at her album cover, and I was like, it's nice, isn't it? It's nice to have that tangible thing to look at, and she is kind of, there's a renewed excitement in that sort of thing. But of course, you know, I'm not an idiot. I'm not print exclusive. Nobody is anymore. We have a fantastically engaged and growing audience online. Our digital editor, Eleanor Jones, is dedicated to tailoring the content to our online audience. We made the decision a while ago that we weren't going to take the easy route of putting Kim Kardashian's bum on a screen every time we need some eyeballs, because that would get us a lot of meaningless eyeballs for our audience. I think I've got just a few examples of here. Oh, there we go. Be impressed. Let me see. Yeah, just sort of a few sort of like examples of sort of like highly engaged Instagram posts of late. There are very few online offerings, I think, that brilliantly target the youth demographic. And we feel it's very patronizing to say that an older audience isn't engaged online. Quite the opposite. I think more than half of our Instagram audience is over 35, almost a quarter are over 45, and they want to be served there. Our newsletter has open rates of up to 45%. This is where, because it's facts, I'm going to look at my thing. Industry average is around 20% apparently, and since January, our digital audience has grown something like, this is crazy, 1,000% basically, over 1,000%. So this, I think that in fairness, a lot of that was because we are sort of like playing catch up, and before I joined, it wasn't really a priority, but I really feel strongly that it is a priority in our little universe. But I'm very, very grateful to work for an organization where they understand that print is the jewel in the crown that absolutely makes everything else that expands from that possible. So looking to the future, it's been a very long time indeed since a magazine editor sat at their desk doing nothing but reading print pages, and I would not want to do that and be in that universe. But as I say, I've been in the job about 8 months. And my ambition is to get the magazine looking the way I want it to, because I do believe it's a real jewel in the Sunday crown for the Mail on Sunday. And a full new look will be possible, will be seen sort of like late December, early January. And then the next year for me is about continuing to surprise our audience, to grow the synergy between our traditional and our new media offerings, and to launch, I hope, a great event that encompasses something fantastic for readers and is huge opportunities for our brand partners. I was asked last night, what's the one thing I miss? Is there anything I miss about editing Glamour magazine? And it is having that huge celebrity event in Berkeley Square. That was equal parts hideous and huge fun to do. And I think that there isn't a brand better placed to have that sort of like powerhouse event behind it than You Magazine. So like its audience, I think that You Magazine is not to be pigeonholed and full of promise for exciting experiences to come. Thank you for listening. I believe that there's time for questions if anybody wants. So thank you.
We're sitting. Can't get through the chairs.
Sorry, I have to carry this around like a colostomy bag or something. So, yes. Hi.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Jay. That's brilliant. Now, we've got time for a few questions.
All right.
I've got some prepared here, but I'll turn to the audience in a minute.
I feel very close to you.
I know, we are very cosy, aren't we? I've turned this one round, causing chaos with the chairs. Heavens above. So, we talked a bit this morning about algorithms and whether they may be taking our place. They won't be. But where do you think they are a bit of a threat to an editor? Or where does that kind of human input comes in?
I don't know. I feel like, you know what, it's like people have predicted the demise of what I do for some time now, and I'm still here. I feel like one of the things that is, again, ironically, in this amazing age where you've got everything at your fingertips, there's so many communities to tap into, there's all this digital access. I think that people rally around magazines like You Magazine, and I'm not just here to, obviously I'm tub thumping for my magazine, but I'd say this about the magazine industry as a whole. I feel like that is the thing that, it's that illusion of digital connectivity that actually has bred so much loneliness. And I feel like a magazine is still the best place where we have a human connection, that it's the thread that runs through You Magazine. It's not as simple as just sort of like plotting things into an algorithm and coming out with suitable stories for you or for me. I think that that's where, and I just can't see how anything can replace that human connection between what's going on out there and how it's relevant to people and what's in their hearts and minds.
I think I agree with you completely. And sort of following on something we were talking about just a bit earlier is I think at the moment we hear a lot about, and we're almost all convinced, aren't we, that everything we're doing is getting faster. It needs to get faster. It has to be delivered to us faster if we're not consuming it faster. But I think there's something to be said for that balance between fast and slow.
Well, again, I mean, I haven't worked on a weekly magazine in my entire life until this year, and I'm finding that pace reasonably relentless after working on a monthly. But we have daily targets with our websites and what have you. But I think it's completely wrong to say that slower media is in any way useless or obsolete. I think that, again, I think probably because I've always worked in women's press as well, and it's so important, the emotional landscape of that. So for instance, some big cataclysmic news event might happen. I guess September 11th is probably a really good example where, I was there, and you're sort of like watching the rolling news, and hours go by, and there's this pressure to fill online or television with information, and hours go by and nothing happens. And people want to hear the human stories behind those sorts of situations. In the eye of the storm is not the right time to bombard somebody about the human experience of going through something like that. 2 weeks might be a good time, 2 months might be a good time, 6 months might be a good time. It's media like the one that I've always done that's going to get that really emotional, in-depth, rounded essay look at what somebody's really gone through in a situation like that. You're not going to get that on Sky News or on Mail Online. And that, there's value in all of it. And I feel like that's our power in actually being the more reflective, emotional content.
I think some of that maybe comes from actually the connection that you do have with your readers as to knowing when the right time is. How do you make sure that you're kind of constantly in touch with them?
I talk to readers probably every day, and that's one of the joys. When I left Glamour, it was a very, very quick realization that I was almost grieving not having that dialogue with an audience. And so I'm really, really happy to be back in that driving seat. I mean, I didn't stop doing social media and all of that when I left. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's all of those things. one of the first things I did, which they didn't have, was setting up an email where readers could contact me directly. I put my hand up to go to as many reader events as I can. And I feel like you have to, it's almost like method acting in a way. You do have to immerse yourself in those people's lives and be of the reader. And I don't know, I don't think you can do my job unless you're interested in people and interested in stories. And I don't know. So it's not like it's a hard question to answer because I don't go, now I will speak to the reader. It's just part of what I do every day. Yeah.
I think it's back again, there is no kind of magic formula to it all, is there? It's not kind of today I will do this, tomorrow tick box, kind of just keeping connected.
Yeah.
I've got lots of questions here, but I'm mindful that you might as well. Are there any in the audience for Jo?
Hi, is there any plans to put more men on the cover of You magazine? And if so, who would be the biggest shock?
100%, watch this space. That's the short answer. And to be honest with you, again, what I was saying is I think there will be, there's going to be all sorts of surprising people. There's also going to be surprising not people. There's going to be all sorts of different things. And that's why I'm very, very grateful to the editor of the paper who's really up for experimenting and shaking things up and making people think, well, I didn't expect that from You magazine. So, yes, and to be fair to the old regime, I think people forget someone showed me the other day, they put One Direction on the cover a few years ago. So I think that, and that's, to me, that's one of the joys of this job. It's print, which I love photography, I love fashion, all of those things. But there's a little bit more freedom because it's not a newsstand title, so we can play with it more, and we absolutely will.
I was just going to ask you, what would you say is like the difference with working at You now from going from You magazine, from going from Glamour, and what would you say is like the pros and cons of working at both?
The con is I hate working in Kensington. It's if you've ever had to deal with the Circle Line, then you will feel my pain. That's honestly about it. It's so new to me. Maybe I'm just in a honeymoon period. I don't know. But it's I feel like I've not worked on a newspaper before, so that's incredibly exciting for me after so long working in the slower world of monthly glossies. Although in fairness, obviously at Glamour we were doing daily targets as well with news websites and stuff. It's really hard. They're so different, and I'm kind of starting to really relax and enjoy that. My God, the audience we have is so big. And, you know, Glamour felt important, but wow, it's really thrilling to be in charge of something that has millions of readers a week, and it's really fun. I don't know, it's hard to talk about. I can't think of any cons at the moment besides the Circle Line.
I've got one more quick joke, possibly a not fair one, but your fingers on the pulse, you know what's the right thing for us all to be doing. And we're getting
That's setting me up, isn't it? Yeah.
We're getting towards Christmas. So what should we all have on our Christmas wish list? What should we all be aiming for? What's our top of our fashion pick for this year?
I was going to say world peace.
Well, obviously
yeah.
that.
I think, well, there's a huge, I'm going to sound like such a buzzkill, there's a real shift to being very sort of like conscious about fashion, very, very ethical, very just really thinking about what you wear and where it comes from in the same way that happened to the food industry a few years ago. So I think that whatever you get, just make sure that it's something that you kind of really feel is what's that fashion lady's word? Investment piece. And that you'll love forever. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Elvin.
Really insightful. Great. Thank you.